Okay, so in 2020, nothing was normal for anyone. Not only were NFL stadiums empty, but whole streets were lifeless. And as you probably remember, not fondly, the world was effectively put on pause due to an unprecedented lethal disease that birthed the strangest year in modern history. And with all this suffering going on in the world, people turned to sports as an outlet of escapism, as the NFL never shut down, providing some normalcy, something consistent. But one team, one singular NFL team, embodied everything this moment in time represented, and that team was the 2020 Pittsburgh Steelers. So let's just laugh at them for a few minutes together, huh? For those of you that maybe aren't in love with the NFL, I just want to say the 2020 Pittsburgh Steelers are exactly why I love football, and hopefully by the end of this video, you can understand why. I mean, this team is just the physical embodiment of a comedic tragedy in every way. So going into the year, nobody really knew what to expect from them. They had an absurd defense with Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Bud Dupree, who was once good, a young Alex Highsmith, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and others, but the offense was not ideal. Captain Fatfuck was 38 and possibly senile, and the weapons around him were grim. But despite all the uncertainty, the boys came out hot to start the season. In Roethlisberger's first game in 364 days, the Steelers' Lake Tahoe legend himself collected 229 yards and 3 touchdowns, and was even getting MVP murmurings early in the season as Benny Snell, I can't believe that's a name that I've even said out loud more than once in my life, but he rushed for 113 yards on the ground that day, and Cam Hayward did this. God, I can't wait for Daniel Jones to start for Indianapolis in like week 15. It's gonna be glorious. But all in all, this resulted in a solid 26-16 week 1 win for the Steelers. And Pittsburgh just kept rolling. In week 2, aided by an 84-yard touchdown by Chase Claypool, who on this day confirmed his status as the next great Steeler wide receiver of all time, and even to this day, he's easily their best receiver in franchise history. No debate whatsoever. But up by 14 points, Pittsburgh appeared to be cruising to victory until backup Jeff Driscoll, yes, Jeff Driscoll, take notes of the QBs they play this year, by the way, came so close to producing the most hilarious upset of the season. Thankfully, though, this team just is not built for collapsing. It's not something in their vocabulary, and the Broncos decided to completely ignore a blitzing Terrell Edmunds, and Mike Tomlin was now 2-0 to start the 2020 season. And from there, they just kept winning and winning and winning. Chase Claypool, now nicknamed Mapletron, had 4 touchdowns versus the Eagles. They blew out a contending Browns team, and versus the Titans in Week 7, they almost upset this unbeatable super team, falling just short of a final second field goal by the ever-reliable Stephen Gostkowski, I guess, as a 27-24 score kept the good vibes rolling. Although a torn ACL to linebacker Devin Bush, who was once good at football, and he also thinks Deshaun Watson was framed, did dampen the mood a bit, but not for a team like Pittsburgh this year. That wasn't gonna do anything to them. So, behind closed doors, the Steelers were confident. I mean, they were 6-0, but NFL fans were not buying it at all. I mean, they had such an easy schedule, and they were getting lucky as hell, too, which was encapsulated perfectly in a weird and goofy game in which Baltimore outgained Pittsburgh 457 yards to 221. And they lost. Just the most Ravens thing ever, and simply due to the sheer girth that Mike Tomlin is packing below the belt, the Steelers won 28-24, and a pick 6 thrown by Lamar wasn't helping that, as the reigning MVP himself at the time committed 4 turnovers on the day in total. And Pittsburgh's turnover producing was also just a huge aspect of this insane, unbeatable run to open the season, which now was extended to 7 wins. And by year's end, PFF would have their pass rush specifically ranked as the best in football. So I mean, don't get me wrong, yes, they were 7-0, yes, people didn't think they were that good, but they were still very good. However, like I said, just 221 yards from the offense and a leading rushing effort of 47 from James Conner, who was not good this year and battling injuries, hinted at potential cracks in the armor, dare I say. For a normal team, though, because this team is clearly so much better than any team in the history of football, so I'm sure they'll be fine. They don't even know what the word collapse is. And you know, let's just also pretend Week 9 didn't happen, as against a 2-6 Cowboys team, whose starting quarterback was goddamn Garrett Gilbert. Once again, 2020, not a real year, and Garrett Gilbert, who is most recently known for his work as the starting quarterback of the Orlando Apollos, almost pulled out the win, as it took trick plays, divine intervention from the football gods, and a classic case of Pittsburgh playing down to competition led to a 19-9 lead by America's team heading into the fourth, only for Ben Roethlisberger to pull it out of his swampy ass with 15 unanswered points to steal a victory. The 24-19 win made it an 8-0 record for Pittsburgh, which is great, of course, but in doing so, once again, the whole world was like, okay, these guys are frauds 100%. Everyone knew the loss was inevitably coming, because this team couldn't even sniff a fart to the 07 Patriots or 72 Dolphins, and talks of the undefeated season, just by pure chance alone, were still alive. But once again, this team was not even thought of as the Super Bowl favorites. But they still weren't losing, so maybe we were all just wrong. Yes, they capitalized on a soft schedule, but they were getting the wins anyways, as they defeated Cincinnati and Jacksonville by multiple touchdowns, and they got a little goofy in the process.
Whoa! Whoa! Oh!
But before we continue, this video is sponsored by BetOnline, and BetOnline has been a recurring sponsor of this channel, but there is no better time to get into BetOnline than right now. And with the NFL season just about to begin, literally we're like a week or two away, you might as well go check it out. They have all sorts of things to look at, not only just NFL, but MLB, UFC, NBA when it begins again. Just so many things going on, and during the season there's going to be a lot more happening here too. There's going to be live props and more things that you can look at. So give BetOnline a shot if you're interested, and without further ado, let's get on with the video. But in week 12 it seemed like things were coming back down to earth, as Mike Tomlin was pissed off, but it wasn't because of a loss. Instead, it was because COVID led to a weird scheduling quirk, because Ravens vs. Steelers was set to be played on a Wednesday. And yes, they did win the game, but Tomlin was fuming at his team's play, and he smelled a loss coming. He said the words, and as it turns out, he was right. And finally, the L came. The Washington football team was the one to get him. Just beautiful stuff. You know those cracks we were maybe allegedly alluding to earlier? Well, the run game was now a full-blown black hole in terms of talent, with Anthony McFarland leading them in rushing yards in this game versus Washington with 15 on the day, as the team had 21 total rushing yards. Nice. And 1 week later, after this tragic loss, it was another double-digit loss to Buffalo, not helped by Deontay Johnson's 2 drops early and being benched himself. And this team all of a sudden just looked lost, but that did not stop Juju Smith-Schuster from busting out some moves, baby, which now extended him to dancing on opposing teams' logos before the game. But, I mean, what a mean guy Von Bell is. He didn't want Juju being himself. He doesn't care about the values of friendship, and he showed him what he thought of those smooth moves on their logo and almost decapitated the motherfucker. Anyway, that wasn't exactly the most ideal way for the game to start, but things somehow got worse. A simple 89 passing effort by Bengals backup quarterback Ryan Finley was enough to down this Steelers team that was once unbeatable by 27-17 as the final score, giving them their 3rd loss in a row, and it was happening. The annual Mike Tomlin collapse was underway, and this juggernaut was completely crumbling. Joy was brought to the face of NFL fans everywhere outside of Pittsburgh, and even some in Pittsburgh, because for the Steelers, this was a new low for the season. I mean, even the Bengals' Twitter account was trolling them. But then, somehow, they miraculously came back versus the Phillip Rivers Colts to avoid going winless after their loss to Washington. Once again, Phillip Rivers on the Colts. What the fuck even was 2020? And afterwards, they celebrated their win in the only way they knew how. This team was bleeding. They were bruised. But damn it, they weren't dead yet. And against all odds, the AFC North had been clinched still. Who cares about all the drops? Who cares that Pittsburgh's running backs combined for 22 yards on 14 carries in the win over the Colts? Who cares Ben Roethlisberger was playing like trash and was their only source of offense? Who cares that they were 11-0 and almost lost every game after that and made the wild card? But the Steelers were going to the playoffs, and you know what? That's all that matters. Oh, but before the season ended, they did have to play the Browns again in the regular season finale with technically nothing to play, but with the starters resting and Mason Rudolph leading the offense. I mean, we don't care about that, right? That game, ending 24-22 in Cleveland's favor, the 2020 Steelers officially ended the year with a 12-4 record. And as AFC North champions, like I just said, they had exceeded every single expectation wildly, despite having to play 13 straight games after their early bye, too. So, you know, that deserves some credit, right? As despite having a 38-year-old quarterback, despite contributing by far the most drops in the league with 43, and finally despite having quite literally the worst rush attack in the NFL, as they averaged 3.12 yards per carry since week 7, that being the worst by any playoff team since 2003 and the 7th worst since the merger. But their defense was, of course, like the only reason why Pittsburgh was unstoppable for a few weeks and why they were even in the playoffs to this very moment, because coming in as the third best scoring unit in the entire league, they also collected the most sacks at the same time with 56 and tied for the most interceptions with 18. I mean, this defense was genuinely amazing, and TJ Watt just did TJ Watt things as well. But despite these impressive numbers on one side of the ball, I mean, this stat just kept coming up. Out of every single team that ever went 11-0, 538's metrics ranked them as the second worst to ever start 11-0. And this is including every single team to ever qualify for this list too. So I don't know, to me that's kind of shocking they weren't last, but still, not good to be down there in that part of the list. But nevertheless, they were still oozing with confidence. This was about to be Ben Roethlisberger's 1997 John Elway season. Yes, he was a bit of a checkdown merchant and had been playing some abhorrent football for a few weeks, but come on now. They're playing the Browns. Everything will be fine.
You know, a bad loss, but Browns are going to get clapped next week, so.
Okay, well, waiting for them in the wild card was, of course, the Cleveland Browns, who, yes, had been getting bullied by Pittsburgh for years and years, but what if this wasn't the same old Browns? Because, yeah, this was not the same old Browns. And what followed was art. Like I said earlier, this is what I cherish so much about football. Every team as hilarious and tragic as the Steelers has a moment like this that encapsulates everything that has took place thus far in this historic year. And the most memorable play in the last 10 years of Steelers football happened on the first play of the fucking game. Oh my god. I mean, this was the most flashy disaster ever. Right away, it was like the football gods reversed the luck they'd experienced all year, supercharged it, and fired it back at them in one quarter, because Big Ben then served up 3 tasty interceptions shortly after, meaning 4 Pittsburgh turnovers had happened in 20 minutes, giving the Browns a 28-0 lead in the second quarter. This game was just officially over, and by halftime it was 35-10. Just like everyone expected, clearly. A Cleveland Browns playoff victory was happening, and what Cleveland didn't realize, though, was that they actually had fallen into Pittsburgh's carefully laid trap. Well, once they've already lost, they actually play kinda okay-ish and save the narrative, because Big Ben had a masterclass on paper. He had 68 pass attempts for 501 yards and 4 touchdowns, and the turnovers also happened, but this game was perfect. Honestly, it showed everything that's wrong with this Steelers culture under Mike Tomlin. The game was talked about afterwards by many Steeler fans and outlets as a valiant effort of a comeback, and brushed past just all the horrible decisions all season long that got them to this position, and this just baffling decision to punt by Mike Tomlin early in the fourth quarter, down by 12. But the football gods, luckily, this one time, did value justice, and the Steelers lost the game with the final score of 48-37. And no, this game was not close at any point, despite what the score says, and that was it. That was the Steelers' season. As for Pittsburgh, the streak of playoff failure under Mike Tomlin continues, with them still not winning a single playoff game since they beat Alex Smith and AJ McCarron in 2016. They went 11-0 and collapsed, not even winning a single playoff game. But this was the only way a year like this could have possibly concluded. It was a perfect end to this 2020 season for Pittsburgh, the likes of which I am very, 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 very sure we will never, ever see again. Anyways, if you like this video, then subscribe, because I got a lot of videos on the channel just like this one. And if you did like this video, watch this video I did a few weeks back on the entire Raiders history. It's pretty good, trust me, and I put a lot of work into it, so I think you'll like it. And thanks to all my Patreons for pledging tiers. It truly does mean a lot. But anyways, until next time.